Alright Disney, your turn. It's time to check out the unrivaled masterpieces of the greatest animation studio of all time, Walt Disney. When Disney puts their minds to it, this studio has changed the history of Western animation. Nowadays, for every one lousy movie, Disney gives us 3 sensational movies in exchange. So let's check out the top 10 best Disney movies of all time. I understand these probably aren't all your personal favorites. I'm pretty biased, so take this list with a pinch of salt. Anyway, on to the countdown. Number 10. Mulan. Mulan is generally seen as good by many, but personally, I consider it one of Disney's most elegant, polished, replayable movies. It has not only sharp comedy and thrilling action scenes, but it has this pleasing, rare Chinese animation style that they sadly haven't ever used again since. Generally, I roll my eyes when the obligatory Disney song starts, but Mulan was one of those cases where I actually enjoyed the songs. Instead of the usual overly sappy Disney songs from the 90s, they were more like listening to the cheery shanty of soldiers on the march. The one minus to Mulan is that the villain is really forgettable, to the point where I can't remember anything about him, apart from the avalanche scene. That and the sequel is among one of the worst Disney movies of all time. But aside from that, we were given beautiful, unique animation. The characters were fleshed out just enough. And I really felt a taste of Chinese culture when I watched Mulan. Not a big taste, but just enough to intrigue me. Mulan's a calming, pleasantly atmospheric treat that I put on every now and then.
Get off the roof, get off the roof, get off the roof!
And for number 9, Frozen.
I like Frozen. Scooby-Doo kinda sucks.
I know the market has been ridiculously oversaturated with Frozen merchandise, and for the longest time, none of us could escape this movie. But to me, it's still a great movie. Most of the time, I dislike songs in Disney movies. They normally feel tacked on and unnecessary to me. But every time Elsa or Anna starts singing, I just turn to jelly. I don't know if it's the orchestra or the tune or what, but their songs just immerse me in that emotion right along with them. Honestly, I'd take Let It Go over When You Wish Upon a Star any day. I liked all the characters of Frozen, even Hans. Olaf is about the only character I probably could have done without. But even then, he's not overly annoying. He's actually very quietly spoken for a character that could have otherwise been very annoying. And I found his summer song legitimately funny and clever. There was such an atmosphere through the snow of Frozen. Whenever I think of a beautiful winter movie now, I think of Frozen. Some people say Tangled is better, but I thought Frozen was a vast improvement in both characters and songs. There was little to no context or reason to the songs in Tangled. They sort of just came out of nowhere. But Frozen made its songs surprisingly organic. Despite its extreme oversaturation on the market, I still think Frozen is a beautiful, really well-structured film. And for number 8, Toy Story 3. What can be said about the Toy Story series that isn't already known? All 3 would be obvious choices for the list. Toy Story is a true vintage in movie history that popularized CG graphics into what they are today. And perhaps for the first time in history, the sequel and threequel were just as good as the original. In fact, I think they were even better. The 3 movies just cover the entire human condition in general. It discusses the idea of redundancy in Toy Story 1, retirement in Toy Story 2, and we discuss outright death in Toy Story 3. I wasn't personally that fussed on the ending part though, with Andy giving away all his toys. I just found it a little too cheesy. The moment that made this movie was the flame scene. Jeebus, that flame scene! I cannot think of another Disney scene where so much is said through the exchanging of facial expressions. In this one short moment, so much is said about each character's terror, acceptance, and what truly matters most to them. Just, this scene is one of the most powerful moments in all of the Disney movies. As well as that, the animation is some of the most pristine, beautiful CG Disney has ever given us. And Buzz, Woody, Potato Head, all the characters we grew up with are just as believable as they were 20 years ago. By Toy Story 3, they've clearly formed a very tight family circle, perhaps due to all the others they've lost over the years. Toy Story 3 was intense, emotional, and a wonderful conclusion to the franchise. Let's hope it's a conclusion. And coming in at number 7, Fantasia. There's a reason Fantasia makes just about every critic's best Disney list. For one, this has been remastered so well that it looks stunning 75 years later. For two, we have not seen Disney attempt such a unique, original, abstract, sophisticated concept in entertainment since. The idea of simply seeing a reflection of what your mind might envision while hearing some of the most powerful music in the world. And in the short space of its runtime, we are taken on an emotional journey taking us both to the lightest and the darkest recesses of the human spectrum. This is the only time I know of that Disney was aiming directly at the adult crowd, and that was a very rare treat. Walt Disney had high expectations of his audience. He expected the viewers to think abstractly and challenge them with a new form of entertainment. The unfortunate backlash to this abstractness was, of course, that Fantasia made most of its original budget back through people taking drugs in the 70s. Fantasia's pretty early in the top 10 list though, as I found some of the middle bits like the dancing emus and hippos just average. But moments like the night on Bald Mountain are among some of the most transcendent, powerful moments in all of Disney history. Fantasia was a Disney masterpiece. Number 6. Lion King. I know it's a cliche to have Lion King on here, but there's a reason it's a cliche. Some Disney movies did not age well when I watched them as an adult, but Lion King was one of those movies that improved as I got older. This is the movie that began the Disney Renaissance of the 90s, despite the subpar movie they followed it up with. And the instrumentals. These tunes were what cemented Hans Zimmer's reputation before he went into things like The Dark Knight and Inception. Just the scope, the sheer, raw, visceral power of those instrumentals is just unfathomably huge. The stampede, the final battle, Simba's ascension to the top of the mountain. Ironically though, the one thing I didn't like about Lion King was the lyric songs. Hakuna Matata grew on me a little as I got older, but cripes, I despise the song Can You Feel the Love Tonight. It is the most overly generic, wishy-washy, nondescript love song I have heard of to this day. Why did everyone love this song so much? The only thing that saves it is that Timon and Pumbaa interrupt it. The two of them immediately start bickering after their honeymoon anyway.
Like all married couples, am I right?
But aside from that nitpick, something about this story just rings a chord with so many people. A boy runs away from his home, only to return as a man and reclaim the throne. I'd recommend Lion King, but chances are you've already seen it. And the 5th best Disney movie is Hunchback of Notre Dame. I love when Disney goes into dark territory.
Stop. Sir? He's up. Wait between lashes. Otherwise the old sting will dull him to the new.
Hunchback is another unique gem in Disney history. The emotionally intense choir composition, combined with a gothic art style, just makes for an incredibly powerful animation experience. Hunchback gave us this strange moment with Disney, where villains weren't just bad, they were downright psychopathically evil. There was just no holds barred with Frollo. Frollo is one of the most grand, artistically made villains Disney has ever done.
Destroy Esmeralda and let her taste the fires of hell!
It's so unlike Disney to have anything even slightly suggesting sex. And Esmeralda is a character that was designed to just drip with sexuality in a G movie. We even get Disney touching on topics like religion, materialism, and torture. I've never fully been on board with Disney's denial that sex exists, but for some reason they abandoned that notion for Hunchback. I mean, look at this man right here. Tell me you don't know what he was doing last night. Sex is real, and I'm glad to see Disney discussing it. However, the obligatory kids' comedy gargoyles are the unfortunate fly in this otherwise delicious blueberry pie, but we don't see too much of them. Another nice twist was that Quasimodo didn't win Esmeralda at the end. Probably the most memorable scene, apart from Hellfire, is watching the church in flames as Frollo falls to his death. It just looks like Frollo is literally descending into hell. Hunchback was deliciously dark, grandiose, and gothic. But sadly, Disney just hasn't made anything like it since. And for number 4, Beauty and the Beast. Normally just hearing the word love story makes me roll my eyes, but this is among the most polished, elegant love stories I've ever seen. Beast was this wonderfully ghastly, yet gentle and earnest creature, and Belle is just such an endearing, beautiful character that she cemented this as one of the best Disney movies of all time. And jeepus, Belle has one of the most beautiful voices I have ever heard. When she so much as sings a chord, it almost sends me into this dreamy daze. If she was a gypsy, she'd have my wallet and probably the shirt off my back. I think part of what can make an exceptional animated movie is the detail of a character's eyes. The tiny particulars you can see, like the planning running through Belle's head as she tries to shoo Gaston out the door. You can see this moment of consideration and gentleness break through Beast's features when Belle offers herself in her father's place. It always astonishes me when an animator can so perfectly animate body language instead of dialogue. The best word for Beauty and the Beast is, well, beautiful. Every moment shines with attention to detail, polish, and careful consideration about what a character's doing or feeling. To me, Beauty and the Beast is a love story done so elegantly that even I can't roll my eyes at it. And the third best Disney movie is Zootopia. Where to start with Zootopia? We've seen civilized animals in cartoons before, but we've never had animals this organic. Each character is this wonderfully detailed, humanized version of its own individual species, yet they have their own unique, carefully orchestrated body language, even down to tiny details like how they move their hands or how their ears move. And there's this deep affection behind the movie, and I don't think they could have picked a better choice for the final song than Shakira. Suddenly hearing one of my favorite singers from the 90s in this beautiful, earnest, touching piece of music just broke me down. And Zootopia gave us a powerful message our world needed. A message about what we are, our barbaric sides, but also our civilized, more sophisticated sides, and what we can strive to be. About teamwork, about the tolerance and acceptance of others' differences. And Judy is just the perfect, kind-hearted, ambitious lead character this movie needed.
Tomorrow's another day.
Yeah, but it might be worse!
And to see this beautiful plot twist where she comes to power, only to realize she has become what she hated, what she strived to stop. The comedy is sharp, and sometimes almost too fast.
60,000, I think. I mean, I am just a dumb bunny, but we are good at multiplying. Anyway, according...
Zootopia is funny, well written, astonishing detail went into every shot of the city. The characters are perfectly acted, and it has a deep, powerful underlying message that resonates with many people long after they've left the theater. This is one of the movies I want the next generation to see. And the second best Disney movie of all time is Mary Poppins. I wanted to be progressive about this, but no matter how I looked at it, Mary Poppins just had to be in my top 2. It is just a non-stop roller coaster of thrills, perfect dances, timeless tunes, and beautiful scenes. I really didn't expect this movie to hold up as well as an adult, but it somehow left an even more profound impact on me as an adult. Every character, every scene, every song is among the most memorable of all of Disney. Over the years, whenever I've been in low spirits in some lousy job, I often found myself suddenly humming Chim Chimney, Chim Chimney, Chim Chim Cheree. Dick Van Dyke and Julie Andrews' performances weren't just good, they were so phenomenal that they still get celebrated half a century later. Just seeing Dick Van Dyke dance is one of the most energizing experiences I can give myself, and Julie Andrews is just the right balance of mysterious, yet elegant at the same time.
First of all, I would like to make one thing quite clear.
Yes?
I never explain anything.
Many people may disagree with me on this choice, but to me, this was Walt's masterwork. This was the moment when Walt put all of his heart and all of his soul into his work. Every camera angle, every character choice, every musical chord. No matter what age I watch this at, it still remains just a thrill, only getting better with age. And it shouldn't, it's from the freaking 60s. This should be outdated as hell, but somehow, Walt has magically made this movie stand for half a century. I mean, there are moments that are a little too sweet by today's standards, but to me, Mary Poppins isn't just a great movie, it is a magic movie. I don't care if Travis hated it. Walt moved the world with his movie, and I am glad for every change he made. And before we get to number 1, I'd like to fly through a couple of quick, honorable mentions. Up. For some reason, Up just never quite grabbed me the same way movies like Beauty and the Beast or Zootopia did. I don't know if it was because our older character was a little too crotchety or our side characters were a little too bouncy, but it just never quite immersed me. But I can still tell it's one of Pixar's most emotionally packed, beautiful movies, and certainly worth a mention. Big Hero 6. I watched this very recently, and I hate to say it, but I was very underwhelmed. I found myself rolling my eyes whenever the cool genius college kids came on screen, because they just felt like overdone caricatures to me. I almost ended up skipping ahead to the parts where Hero and Baymax were. But with that said, I personally think this is some of the most astounding CG Pixar has ever given us. The greatest part of the villain for me was watching the nanobots form around him like waves in the ocean. Wall-E. Geez, the first half of this movie is amazing. Again, the amount that is said with zero dialogue is unbelievable, but the second half made it a bit more meh to me. I never much liked the human society, and almost would have preferred it if we just stayed on Earth with Wall-E. I'd put Wall-E at probably number 11. Sleeping Beauty. I just had to give this movie a quick mention for its animation. This movie still looks beautiful, even by today's standards. I literally remember nothing from this movie except Maleficent and how unbelievably astounding it looked. I don't think Disney has ever done animation that felt so traditional fantasy. Whenever I look at the colors, I immediately envision dragons and magic. Wreck-It Ralph. I grew up with video games like most people, so I did enjoy how they brought them together in Wreck-It Ralph. Ralph and Vanellope are an endearing duo, and their friendship was really touching. Wreck-It Ralph would most likely make 11 or 12 for me personally. Aladdin. It's funny, rewatching Aladdin as an adult, I realized how much Robin Williams made this movie. Aladdin and Jasmine were okay, but neither of them left an impact on me like the genie did. Sadly, this was a role that Dan Castellaneta, as much as I like him, couldn't quite fill the boots for. Nightmare Before Christmas. I liked Nightmare Before Christmas, but it just never felt as cleverly written or as intriguing as other Disney movies before it. And about the only part I remember about this movie is the animation and the introducing song. I just didn't feel there was as much writing in this movie to grab adults. But either way, that's just my opinion. It's still a great cult classic. Anyway, here we go. And the number 1 best Disney movie of all time is Inside Out. Inside Out is just a dazzling spectacle in every way. It's detailed, it's smart, it's abstract, it's funny, yet it's emotional. Every corner you look at in Inside Out just has this earnesty, imagination, and careful thought put into it. New ideas are just popping off the screen at every corner. Everything you see is some extremely thoughtful and clever representation of the human consciousness. We see all these fascinating analogies of the mind, like abstract thought, memories, dreams, consciousness itself, hell, even subconscious. And it's also gorgeously colored and represented. And all the way, we have these 5 endearing personalities guiding us through. Joy, sadness, disgust, anger, and fear all work off each other perfectly. None of them are too overbearing, despite the fact that they are each extreme representations of emotion. How do you even do that? The sheer ambition of this movie, and the way scenes so effortlessly well up emotions in me. So many scenes just left me on the edge of my seat, transfixed as to what would happen next. This is the first Disney movie that has truly thrown me right back into that wide-eyed, childlike excitement of just exploring this fascinating new world they've created. I was really glad to see so many female producers in this team, because just like Steven Universe, the pastels of this movie are just so damn vivid. The whole point of the movie is to demonstrate that each one of the emotions is completely necessary, and they demonstrate that perfectly. The movie is essentially about watching an existential crisis. The phrase, "the greatest battle is within," has always rung true to me, and Inside Out perfectly represents the entire galaxy of challenges and conflicts that happen within every person's mind. And the sheer, raw emotion, the gravity of these scenes is something I feel right along with the characters. There's just such a strong understanding of loss and transitioning in this movie, or moments like when sadness is the only one that can break through and take the keyboard of Riley's mind. It chokes me up every time I see it. From humor to surprise to shock to loss, never have I been so enthralled in a Disney movie. The only frustrating thing was, I wanted to see more, damn it. Why are we getting second-rate content like dinosaurs from Pixar when we have freaking platinum mines of imagination and talent in movies like this? This is the Disney movie I am waiting for with bated breath to see a sequel for. Inside Out proves it's not always about concept. Sometimes it's about the perspective of how the concept is told. You have some of the greatest mysteries of all mankind sitting right between your ears, and I couldn't imagine a more enthralling subject for Disney to cover. It's just magnificent, and I personally consider it the #1 best Disney movie of all time.
Language processing. There's deja vu, there's critical thinking, there's deja vu.
Over the years, Disney has somehow molded their own unique experience for the viewer. This pleasant sense of hope that can give me, anyway, a moment of contentment, and this sense of positivity for who we are. And in recent years, they've somehow made these hopeful ideas feel non-pandering and earnest. And for that experience alone, Disney will probably always be my favorite studio of all time. The world needs Disney, and it was a pleasure to go through these. Do you think I missed a particular movie? If you think so, feel free to leave your own favorites in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.